Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dion's Daily Dose. I'm here with my buddy Shawn.
Hi, everybody.
And tonight we are going to look at what I think is a very interesting hearing about our tax dollars and what the hell is going on. It's the USAID, which people call it USAID. The only people we're aiding are other countries and criminals, in my opinion. Now, USAID does have a couple of good programs.
They do.
Go ahead.
Under President Bush, they had an AIDS program to help Africa.
Okay.
And to stop the spread of AIDS. And there was something else we talked about.
They have Ebola prevention.
Oh, yeah, Ebola.
There are some programs.
And it does project American goodness on the world stage.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff that they're going to mention on this are completely wasteful and unnecessary.
Now, here's the big burning question, right? Is this just overgrown bureaucracy where a bunch of stuff is getting approved that just shouldn't have been approved? Or is this outright betrayal of the American trust?
I think a little of both.
I'm leaning heavily towards the latter. We are actively sending money to people that hate us.
That is true, yeah.
I mean, how is that not treason?
Oh, yeah, they'll talk about this in the hearing.
So we're going to jump right into it. We got a lot to cover. We're going to start with Representative Mast, who is the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
Yep.
Called it. Look at that. All right, guys, let's jump into this. I know you're eager to get started here. You can find this on Forbes, YouTube, breaking news, the USAID betrayal front and center at tempestuous House Foreign Affairs hearing. Was it tempestuous, Shawn? It was.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Excitement. Let's dig in. Oh, might be nice if I was set up. There it is. Okay. Borrow that for just a moment.
Oh, it helped.
All right. It would help if
that's why
it would help if I had it plugged in. Yeah. So here we go.
The purpose of today's hearing is to discuss the misuse of public trust through USAID's woke programming and explore ideas for reorganization to promote a stronger, better, and more prosperous United States. I now recognize myself for an opening statement on this hearing. I can tell you that we are here today very simply because many of the people and many of the programs in USAID have literally betrayed America. My colleagues to my left will say that I'm lying about these programs, and I know they damn well wish that I was lying.
I wish he was.
The programs that USAID and the State Department has spent money on are indefensible. They hurt America standing around the globe. And I think the fact is clear that America would have been better off if your money had been simply thrown into a fireplace.
Probably.
Instead, the Biden administration spent it imposing their far left-wing ideology onto other nations. Under them, USAID spent $2 million for sex change surgeries in Guatemala, $22 million to increase tourism in Tunisia and Egypt. That's not life-saving.
Right?
$520 million to pay consultants to teach people in Africa about climate change. That's not medicine. $4.5 million to teach people in Kazakhstan how to fight back against internet trolls.
What?
That's not life-saving.
Right.
$20,000 to help LGBT individuals vote in Honduran elections. That's not medicine. $5.5 million to improve the lives of LGBT individuals in Uganda. $14 million to identify LGBT leaders in Cambodia. $425,000 to train Indonesian coffee companies on how to be more gender friendly. $15 million for condoms to the Taliban. And I have pages and pages more. That's not diplomacy. It's a slap in the face to every American who got up this morning and went to work. To this moment, you haven't seen or heard any of my colleagues apologizing for this being wrong or wasteful. Instead, for the left, their biggest concern is that the person assembling a team to make sure that these programs are not funded is a billionaire named Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So out of touch that they actually believe these programs are bringing other countries closer to us or that our adversaries are going to gain some kind of foothold if we don't continue doing these programs. That's not what competing looks like for the United States of America. On the contrary, last month, when I participated in a Q&A with my colleague here to the left in the United States Institute of Peace, which will have to explain their funding, the Ugandan ambassador stood up and said these programs were not doing anything to improve relations between our nations. Take a look at the video.
He has problems with the video. It doesn't work.
Oh, the video has no sound.
Maybe we'll get. Was exactly what the Ugandan ambassador was saying.
Yeah.
And they were thanking us for not continuing these programs. That's what took place. And that's just one of the countless ambassadors that.
Oh.
I think it's the video.
These
There
programs
we go.
will
Okay. I
not
was
continue.
like, what?
That they're going to come to an end.
Not
Yet my
us.
colleagues to the left are arguing for these programs to continue.
Of course they are.
Arguing for the people who put these programs in place to go back to work, arguing that the agency that did this be allowed to continue wasting your money.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to argue that President Trump doesn't have the authority to do this. But the fact is, of those who were in Congress, all but 3 of them voted to give him the authority in 2024. And it says very specifically in FtF approach that the administration may potentially expand, eliminate, consolidate, or downsize covered departments or agencies or organizations. That's the language of the authority. It's not just the content of USAID
Bruh.
that is the
Knowing.
betrayal.
So hold on. He said all but 3 of them voted to give the president more power
When it was Joe Biden.
when it was Joe Biden, which is hilarious, dude. That's what a lot of these people don't realize. Talked about boomerang before. This is massive, massive scale.
It's the larceny that USAID has conducted. Crooked NGOs around Washington, D.C., swindling American taxpayers out of their money. A recent audit found that USAID's implementing partners were using upwards of 50% of their grants for overhead costs, not life-saving measures.
Not even
The administration has said that the aid pause is temporary, and they have proven it. The recipients of USAID programs, they can apply for a waiver. I have a list with me. Many have applied, many have been denied, and some have received waivers that actually proved their work was life-saving.
Yeah, makes sense.
There is.
Let me give a warning
Yeah.
to my colleagues. It will be short-sighted of you if you turn a blind eye to USAID's betrayal and more
2 more
broadly
minutes.
the betrayal within the State Department. Because we are going to bring in the people who put these programs in place. We are going to show to the American people exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
The videos, the documents, the everything. They are going to see it. Like $25,000 for a drag show seminar for Venezuelan migrants in Ecuador. And we are going to show you that video.
Okay, hold on. Whoa. Hold
Uh-huh.
on. Hold on. Yeah. $25,000 we spent for a drag show for Venezuelan migrants in Ecuador.
You heard it right.
Could you what could you do with $25,000?
Wow, I could do a lot.
It's a life-changing amount of
Yeah.
money for middle class or lower middle class earners.
Uh-huh.
$25,000 is a lot of damn money. No, it's much better for the American people that we have drag shows like this, guys. Does this video work?
Yep.
Told us loud, whatever. Dude,
Yeah, our tax dollars.
here's the thing. You want to go have a drag
That's
show?
the
I don't
USAID
care.
program spending your
Yeah,
money.
but why are we spending the money
Right,
for it?
exactly.
We will be writing these programs out of law as we
Good.
conduct our first full State Department review since 2002.
Wow.
I would say that when done right,
I was shocked
foreign
at
aid
that
can
too,
be one of
when
the
I heard
best
that.
tools. It can help strengthen our relationships
Yeah,
with our
it
allies
can.
that need a hand up.
Absolutely.
Not
Yeah.
stuff like
And
that.
it can
though.
help countries realize that America is the best partner.
Mhm.
But it's only true if we understand a couple of things. What does America actually need from each country or region? What does that country or region actually want from the United States of America? Because it's not these things.
No.
And it's only fair to Americans if we can prove that a dollar is better spent going abroad than staying in the pocket of an American who is right now hustling and grinding it out at work. And I now recognize my colleague, Ranking Member Gregory Meeks.
Okay. Pause very briefly because we're going to hear from the other side. And of course, I have not seen what he says, but I can already tell you it's going to be President Trump is evil. Elon Musk is rich and enriching himself via this. And they're stopping a bunch of life-saving aid across the world and people are going to die. That's my crystal ball fortune telling about what the left has going to say. That said, dude, ridiculous amounts of money for ridiculous things. This is what our federal government has become.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go.
Representative Meeks from New York.
Meeks from New York. So you know how this is going to go. And we're going from the 811 to the 1320. So we're going to get to hear all of his intro, right? Or most
I think
of
there's
it.
a couple more minutes that I edit out.
But even so.
But most of it, yes.
Yeah, let's hear what good old Representative Meeks has to say.
My witnesses to our first full committee hearing this Congress. But I would be remiss if I didn't make clear my disappointment in the midst of the chaos created by the Trump administration's unlawful attempt to shutter USAID and pause foreign assistance funds. We don't have anyone here today from the administration to explain, to appear, and to explain their actions before this committee.
I just want to pause briefly and say they don't need to explain anything to you, dude.
No.
Like they enacted the policy, they explained it to the public, which I myself went and they carried on. They don't need to explain themselves to you. Equal but separate, homie.
It shouldn't be just private sector individuals here. We are the oversight of the U.S. government, and we should have members from the State Department, the Secretary of State, Rubio, present. And my Democratic colleagues and I have asked the chairman to have a committee hearing with Secretary Rubio, and I urge that to be done as soon as possible.
Okay.
The American people deserve to have their elected representatives question the administration about the decision to shut down a government agency established in law by Congress. We don't have a king. We have a system. If the administration believes what they have done is legal and merited, they should be before Congress. They should be here. They should be talking to the American people directly. We should be summoning them here. I also want to do away with the myth that this exercise with DOGE and USAID is about addressing waste, fraud, and abuse. Because if you really care about waste, fraud, and abuse, you don't illegally fire 21 independent inspector generals in the dark of night. You don't fire the head of the government ethics office. Just this week, President Trump fired USAID's independent inspector general.
I'm going to pause briefly because if you guys pay close attention, he's actually making the case because none of these people had discovered any of this.
No.
they've been in these positions, these so-called inspector generals, and they never said a word about all of the fraud, all of the waste, all of the abuse. You call it whatever you want, treason, but they didn't say a word. Of course they should be replaced because they're obviously not doing their job.
Just one day after he issued a report showing that the administration's own effort to dismantle USAID is wasting taxpayer dollars and putting our national security at risk.
Oh my God.
That's what's happening. Our national security is at risk. And I'm asking unanimous consent to enter that IG report into the record.
Knock yourself out, dude.
This committee and the American people deserve to hear from the IG. I would urge you to invite the Inspector General to appear before this committee to tell us about the actual work
2 more minutes
of addressing waste, fraud, and abuse, if that's what this is really about.
See, I point out, we've had so many of these hearings and so many of these people, and not once have they brought up the shit we're talking about today.
Nope.
So obviously they weren't doing their job.
No.
Now, many Republicans, this has not been a partisan issue. Many Republicans have long championed U.S. foreign assistance as critical to our national security.
They're criminals too. I
As
don't
a
care what party
source
you're
of
from.
United States soft power and a key tool to outcompete China's growing global influence.
Aren't we sending money to China via USAID? I read somewhere that we were.
We do send them something, but I don't know if it's from USAID.
Either way, dude.
Despite my disappointment over not having Trump's administration panelists here, I am pleased that among our witnesses today, we have a number of individuals who are Republicans. I look at my former colleague, Ted Yoho, who I have traveled with on several times, several Codels, and we visited USAID programs. I know when you go and travel and see firsthand the work of dedicated USAID Foreign Service officers, civil servants, and local staff to whom we owe our gratitude and our thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for wasting my money overseas. Bruh.
Not the dishonor shown to them by wealthy billionaires with a social media platform. Now, I only have a few minutes left, so I won't spend my time debunking every mischaracterization or outright lie we've heard from the Republican distractors of USAID. These are,
I think he means detractors, but go ahead.
distractions meant to obscure the critical work USAID does. I instead submit into the record the stories by the Washington Post, the New York Times, fact-checking and dubious claims made by the Republicans.
Imagine that. The left wants to put New York Times and Washington Post articles on the record. Debunking. Dude, the Washington Post should be burned, in my opinion. Like, it's the only thing it's good for is lining your bird cage with, in my opinion. But if you want to read it, knock yourself out.
Sometimes once in a while, they have a good article.
No.
Not
Anyway,
very often.
our next clip is at the 15:20 mark. So we're going to skip a couple minutes. And we're going to go 15:20 to 16:18. And they're going to introduce the witnesses.
Gentlemen, for yielding. I think I called it exactly right what the arguments were going to be.
Hey,
Other
he
members of the
did.
committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. We are pleased to have our panel of witnesses here today on this important topic. Max Primorak, Senior Research Fellow at the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation.
Okay.
The Honorable Ted Yoho, former U.S. Representative from Florida's 3rd Congressional District, and the Honorable Andrew Natsios, former administrator at the U.S. Agency for International Development.
Okay.
This committee recognizes the importance of the issues before us and is grateful to have you here to speak with us today. Your full statements will be made a part of the record, and I'll ask each of you to keep your comments, spoken remarks to less than 5 minutes in order to allow time for member questions. Hopefully you give us something that more than what we could just read in your opening statements. And I would also ask unanimous consent that the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. McCormick, be allowed to sit on the dais and participate in today's hearing. Without objection, so ordered.
Okay. We're going to go right into it here to our first witness, which is Max Primorak. Who is he again? He kind of went over it
I
quick.
think he is the one who's part of the Margaret Thatcher
No, Heritage.
Foundation,
Ye-
but the Margaret Thatcher wing of. Or something.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know
I
if he
can't
talks
remember
about
what-
it, but the Heritage Foundation in general is a conservative think
Yeah.
tank that advises on policy and goes. That's where people are saying what Project 2025 is rooted
Yeah.
is the Heritage Foundation. That they're right, obviously right leaning, but that's really all I know about them is they're a conservative think tank.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So let's hear from him. We're going to go 1619. So basically right after this to 1914. So 3 minutes of Max.
I now recognize Mr. Primorak for your opening statement.
Let's see what he has to say.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to testify before this committee. My name is Max Primorak. I am a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. I previously served at the US Agency for International.
PEPFAR saves lives! Restore AIDS lives!
And then we get protesters.
Restore AIDS lives!
Bruh, I wish you had warned me about that.
Sorry.
Sorry, guys. I had no idea that, ear violence was coming up.
All right, next time I'll warn you.
Yeah, let me know, man. It's like headphone warning. Yeah. So look, apparently we're going to have this. You've got
Only
people
time.
who,
This is the only time it happens.
okay, this is the only time it happens, but we have people with nothing better to do who somehow believe that screaming in the middle of a session is the way that they're going to get their way.
And they were talking about they want to restore the funding for FtF.
PEPFAR?
PEPFAR.
Yeah, what is PEPFAR?
It's basically aid to help Africa contain the HIV crisis. You should look it up.
Yeah. Okay. So it actually stands for, and you're absolutely right about what it is. PEPFAR stands for the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. It's a global initiative to fight AIDS. PEPFAR is the largest commitment by any country to address a single disease.
And it was implemented under George W. Bush.
Okay. So here's the thing, though. My understanding is if there's actual life-saving stuff going on, then they can apply for a waiver and get that funding restored.
He's going to talk about
He's
it
going to talk about that, right?
right now.
I guess these guys don't watch the news. They didn't realize that PEPFAR was one of the many programs that did prove to be life-saving. So the funding was restored. Somebody better give them a link to, I don't know, maybe Fox News or something like that. You may resume your opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, I
Bruh.
previously served at the U.S. Agency for International Development and the U.S. Department of State. I've dedicated 35 years to international relations work. The views I express here today are my own. President Donald Trump's decision to shutter USAID reflects the agency's loss of bipartisan support in Congress and the trust of the American people. It exposes a bureaucracy that went off the ideological rails and no longer reflects the will or the values of the American people.
Yeah.
What should be and must be an effective tool of U.S. foreign policy has turned into a partisan global vehicle focused on spending money rather than achieving concrete outcomes aligned with American interests and on imposing radical social ideas that divide us at home and spur resentment abroad. They refuse to be held accountable to Congress and American taxpayers who fund them. Advocates evoke dangers to our national security, citing programs to counter communist China, protect us from the global spread of infectious diseases, and provide life-saving humanitarian aid. I understand the importance of these programs. At USAID, I co-chaired a counter-China interagency group, oversaw containment of 2 Ebola outbreaks, and led the Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance. But USAID's obsession with identity politics, gender fluidity, population control, and climate fanaticism undermined these goals. Americans are now aware of massive waste, fraud, and abuse of their money. Every single
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I got no problem if a small amount goes to help AIDS, dude. Like, AIDS is horrific.
Yeah.
I lived through the 80s. AIDS was, dude. That said, and Anthony Fauci for his part in that. If you don't know about it, look it up.
Yep.
That said, home, and I do not want to be paying for drag shows
No.
in other like I don't want to be paying for drag shows at all, but especially in other countries.
Yeah. Isn't that insane?
I don't want to pay for condoms for anyone else. Like, now here's the wild part, right? The AIDS programs, a lot of that is to buy condoms.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. Like, if I understand that's the way to stop AIDS, allegedly, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Either way, I don't want to go into the Taliban. I don't want to go into, these
are we
countries
helping?
or these
Yeah.
groups that want to hurt us.
Africa's
It's
a little
nuts.
bit different than the Taliban.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, we're going to jump ahead to 2153.
But we should do America first.
That's exactly it. It should everything we consider should be America first. How, like, if there is a valid way for, if by giving money to stop AIDS here, it's going to help America and you can show me how, okay, I'm all for that, right? But everything should come down to, is it going to help America? So the next clip is former Rep Yoho.
Yep. Ted Yoho.
Dude, I almost said YOLO. I was like, no way,
Yeah,
his name is YOLO.
He was the congressman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Meeks, and members of the committee, it's an honor to participate in this hearing regarding USAID.
Forgot to
I'm
turn
a
it
former
really
member
low.
of Congress serving from 2013 to 2021, representing Florida's 3rd Congressional District.
He forgot to turn his mic on. Yeah. Do they fix it?
They do.
Okay.
During my 8 years in Congress, I served on this and the Agricultural Committee. I had the honor to serve as chairman of the Asia Pacific Subcommittee
they
during
do.
the 115th Congress. I entered Congress.
Mr. Yoho, could you move a little closer to your mic?
It'll help turn it on too.
There we go. Yeah.
I lost that knowledge already, huh?
Oops.
I entered Congress with the
There we
goal of
go.
eliminating foreign aid for various reasons. Looking back, I was ignorant on what I thought foreign aid was, what it did, and thought it was unnecessary. Soon after my first foreign congressional delegation trip, I realized that foreign aid, when used properly,
Right.
can be a tool in soft diplomacy that strengthens the nation's economy, security, increases trade, decreases migration, creates strong partners and allies. When used improperly, it has the opposite effect on both our friends and adversaries and wastes taxpayers' money. I became a
Yep.
strong proponent of reforming international assistance by working in a bipartisan and bicameral fashion with my co-sponsors, along with the first Trump administration when we introduced the BUILD Act that authorized the creation of the DFC. This was the largest reform in foreign aid in over 2 decades, and my goal was to move countries from aid to trade with the use of effective tools managed correctly. I chaired, along with Congressman Adam Smith, the Effective Aid Caucus and met with members and outside groups to improve efficiency and effectiveness on assistance. This committee has had many hearings dealing with USAID. It's frustrating that an agency set up to further our security, prosperity, engage in humanitarian projects, and work to prevent the spread of diseases, hunger, and conflict have strayed so far from its original intent when it was created under President Kennedy in 1961.
Yeah, which I showed you guys earlier. That guy saying, "Oh, he can't do this," and it was created by Congress. No, it wasn't. It was created by Kennedy, and as such, falls under presidential power because Congress never actually created it. Correct?
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, look up whether Congress actually ended up creating something. But we know that the original agency was created by Kennedy in the 60s, 61, I think. All right. So our next little clip is Andrew Natsios, Natsios, I think. And that's at 2720, and we're going to run to 3253. So apparently he's very interesting. Okay. 2720 again to 3253. So
For your opening statement.
here we go.
Thank you very much. I speak for myself today.
Turn your mic on. There we go.
He did
I
that
speak
too.
for myself
He heard me.
today. I've been involved in humanitarian work.
What?
development work.
Let's try that microphone one more time. Maybe
Right.
pull it a
Didn't
little
work.
closer.
Okay, how's that?
Much
There
better.
we go.
Okay. I speak for myself today. I don't represent anyone. And I've been doing this work since 1989 when I joined the Bush administration, the first Bush administration, as the director of the Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance when
Okay.
the world order was collapsing. And our little office, along with the Food for Peace office, saved tens of millions of lives around the world, which they continued to do through the BHA Bureau, which is now much larger than it was when I was there. If you're upset about
Like
getting
always.
off course, so am I. But let's course correct, not course destroy. When I took over AID as the administrator in Bush 43, W's administration, in early 2001, I ordered my deputy to begin reviewing every single project, every single program in AID, line by line, and we eliminated 80 programs.
Okay. I mean, I'm down so far. Sounds like, he started off doing a good job. Did you find out the answer to that?
You were right. Congress never. So it was just John F. Kennedy. Yeah,
Right.
so it does fall under the president.
Exactly. The president has full authority. It's an executive branch program. All this, he can't do it. Congress is responsible for funding. Guys, Congress keeps handing out responsibilities. That's what all these bureaucracies are all about, is Congress giving away their authority as much as they can in different ways.
That they don't want to be held accountable.
Exactly. They go, oh, well, that's their office. They do that there. That way they can shuffle the money around and get it to the programs they want without actually voting on that stuff. They just vote for money to go to USAID. And how can you be mad when they're, saving lives around the world, they claim, right?
Over a month. And we moved that cash back into the program because there was a cassava mosaic that was destroying the cassava crop in Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Eastern Congo. There was a risk of a famine. And we got cuttings in and we stopped the pandemic, the disease pandemic for the cassava. My point is, I eliminated a lot of philosophically offensive programs that a conservative administration would not tolerate. And when the Democrats took over, they moved the agency to the left. I moved it to the right. The Obama people actually said I was very right-wing. I was the most right-wing administrator in the history of the agency. And yet the career people followed what I wanted to do in the agency. We put heavy emphasis on economic growth. Some of the things you've criticized, sir, with all due respect, are economic growth programs that have been highly successful. 10% of the workforce in Egypt is from tourism. AID has properly invested $100 million over the years, and it's massively increased the number of jobs in Egypt. They are.
Who gives a fuck about Egypt?
Yeah,
No.
why are we doing that?
Why are we spending money to make jobs in Egypt when we need jobs here?
I'm okay with saving lives and help with hunger and stuff.
Right.
But stuff like that, why are we helping?
Why are we creating jobs in Egypt via tourism? Who let that country worry about that?
What? 36 trillion in debt. Why are
we? It's insane. And this guy's defending this shit.
Our ally. Don't we want people working instead of being unemployed? It is 12% of the GDP of Egypt. Tourism.
So what?
We call it development tourism. We do it in Lebanon. We do it in Tunisia. We've done it in Kosovo and in Bosnia. We've done it in Morocco. We do it all over the world. It brings in revenue and employs people. It's an economic growth project. I believe in economic growth. I believe in the private sector. I believe in free markets.
Free market isn't sending money to Egypt for tourism.
Yeah.
That's what AID does. The notion that AID is some kind of a Marxist institution is absolutely ridiculous, okay? I know the career officers. I work with them. There is a career track called the private sector officers. And what do? They work with the business community. I started a program which the Democrats continued called the Global Development Alliance. We started it very early on, 2001. What it does is it matches AID money with corporate money to supply their supply chains. We do this all over the world. We're working with hundreds of American corporations. We've raised $60 billion in private sector funding with the American business community to increase jobs all over the world. We've been doing this
all over the world. I don't care about any other country than this one until our citizens are taken care of. And it comes down to that. When you have people who are serving this country and they're on food stamps, no money needs to go out. Fix that shit ASAP.
For 24 years,
unreal, dude.
Very successfully. The Europeans and the Canadians and the Australians have taken our lead in this and tried to replicate these public-private alliances. 25% of the money in those GDAs is U.S. government money. 75% is private money.
Okay, wonderful. But what's the 25%? How much of my tax dollars are you spending for this?
Why are we spending the tax? The corporations want to do it. Why don't you just
knock themselves out? Why are we even 25%? Like, dude,
we invest together. We don't give them any money. They don't give us any money. We design the project. We co-invest, and then we manage it. The notion that AID is irresponsible in terms of its oversight is utter nonsense. I wrote an essay 12 years ago called The Clash of the Counter-Bureaucracy and Development. It was published. It's the most cited thing I've written in the scholarly literature. And it was based on my frustration with the level over and over and over again of oversight. The Inspector General, the Special Inspector General. Why do we need two Inspector Generals in Afghanistan and in Iraq? Then we have the GAO, we have the OMB, we have the Congressional Oversight Committee. Every line of what AID does is overseen by 7 different levels of oversight. You know why money?
So, 7 layers of oversight missed the drag shows.
This guy, right? And I get what he's saying, right? At a foundational level, 7 layers of oversight is crazy. It's like, oh my God, right? Why do you need to report to this person, then this person, then this? I get the frustration, especially when you're trying to do your job. But this reinforces how bad this shit has gotten. 7 levels of oversight missed the stuff that the guy talked about in the beginning.
He disappears. I'll tell you why. Where do we levels of oversight? You know why money disappears? I'll tell you why. Where do we work? Where do we work? Christian NGOs are now delivering food in Sudan in a famine. There will be 2 million people dead by the end of this year. Those are the projections.
Okay.
There is no government in Sudan. There's no police in Sudan. There's no courts.
I thank you for your opening remarks this morning.
Yeah, you're done, homie. Okay. I feel bad for Sudan.
Yeah.
I genuinely do. My heart goes out to those who are like going to starve to death. But why the fuck are my tax dollars paying for Sudan? As long as our country needs money, and we do, we got Social Security on the verge of bankruptcy. We got Medicare, Medicaid, blah, 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 blah. Billions, or excuse me, not billions, trillions, $36 trillion in debt. And we're sending our money to Sudan because they have a drought. I'm sorry. Like, unbelievable with these people. And they defend it. They're like, oh, yeah, you should absolutely go to work at wherever you work and put in your 8 hours and 40 hours a week, 80 hours a week. And then when you get your taxes, you see FICA and you go, oh, those bastards. And they want you to forget about it. They want you to forget about where that money goes. This is nuts, dude. The next clip, moving right on. Woo.
I knew that was gonna get your goat.
Oh my God! But this proves it isn't a Democrat problem. It's not a Republican problem. It's across the board. It's these bureaucrats like this guy who believes that they're doing the right thing. He genuinely believes that the right thing is to save these people. And I understand that. I'd love to save everybody I could too. But focus on us first, dude. Unbelievable. All right. We're going to jump right into, who is this?
Representative McCall.
McCall. Where's he from? Do you know?
Texas.
And I
McCall
now
from Texas.
recognize
Here we go.
Chairman Emeritus, Ranking Member Meeks, for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Oh.
Chairman McCall.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Chairman McCall.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chairman Emeritus McCall.
There we
Oh,
go.
okay. I was like, wait a minute.
Famous.
Okay. And McCall, we're going to do 3254. Well, 3304 right here to 3759. So about 5 minutes. Here you go.
Chairman, when I was chairman of this committee, I got congressional notifications of spending programs from USAID and State Department. And I put holds on those programs, many listed by the chairman. Instead of working with me, the administration, the prior Biden administration, decided to blow through those holds, bucking a long-standing tradition. And I want to go through some of those I put on hold.
Okay.
1.5 million to promote LGBTQ causes for immigrants in Latin America, allowing them to litigate against foreign governments, primarily Catholic nations. I don't know how that advances the U.S. interests
Exactly.
abroad.
It doesn't.
Exactly. It does
And as a
not.
Catholic myself, I find that very offensive.
Mhm.
We've also heard about the 15 million for condoms and contraceptives to Afghanistan, a country under Sharia law, $15 million.
Yeah.
What did USAID do? They blew through my holds in complete and utter disregard of this committee's oversight responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I also uncovered the department had spent $500,000 to advance atheism in Nepal. Atheism in a country where Tibetan Buddhists is a predominant religion. What does that have to do with advancing
Right.
U.S.
Yeah,
interests?
How does that
abroad?
help us?
The Humanist International Group that they gave money to, the 500,000, the CEO called the Catholic Church an institution you should be ashamed to be involved with.
Wow.
Our taxpayer dollars to condemn
You can
the
hear in
Catholic
his
Church.
voice how
Oh,
mad
yeah.
he
Again,
is.
as a
I don't blame
Catholic,
him.
I find that
Oh,
extremely
look,
offensive.
I'm not a Catholic,
I'm
right?
not either,
I
but
was
I
when
would
I was a
be.
kid. I think a lot of us were when we were kids. But as I grew older, my faith changed. But here's the thing, right? I got my own issues with the Catholic Church and the way they do things. We could talk about it for hours. But I don't want my tax dollars going to people who are like doing the things that these people are doing.
If I could finish, I said I've never been Catholic, but if I was, I would be offended by that.
I'm offended being a
offensive.
Christian.
Yeah,
like
as a Christian, that's offensive.
It's offensive.
And then the one we've heard so much about, $20,000 for drag shows and drag workshops in Ecuador.
Dude.
Mr. Chairman, I've seen the video you sent out. It is utterly disgusting to the American taxpayer that we are funding that kind of behavior. All these programs gave USAID a black eye.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go back to the Marshall Plan, really the genesis for thinking about USAID. The Marshall Plan was one of the most successful programs we endeavored in after World War II to make sure a Hitler never rose from the ashes again.
Okay. Do you want to look? Yeah, you want to tell the viewers what the Marshall Plan is?
President Truman signed the Economic Recovery Act of 1948. It became known as the Marshall Plan, named for Secretary of State George Marshall, who in 1947 proposed that the United States provide economic assistance to restore the economic infrastructure of post-war Europe.
There you go. Once again, like we've seen countless times, the United States goes in, destroys a country with war. I'm not saying World War II was, I'm not going down that route. I'm just saying the United States goes in, destroys infrastructure during war as war happens, but then we turn around and we fucking rebuild. We give that country money to fix the damage that we did when we kicked their ass. Like, I get it, man. On the one hand, it's like, that's the bully on the block kind of behavior, right? Push somebody down, take their lunch money, but then give them a quarter back. Like, come on. At the same time, I don't want my tax dollars going for that stuff, dude. I want to hear.
Food for Peace program, sir, that you discussed. The American farmer benefits from this. It's been extremely successful. Why was USAID created in the first place in 1961?
He said the American farmer benefits from
the food program because they buy the food from the farmer, the American farmer, to dispense it around the world.
But I guess my question is, if they're fixing a drought in Sudan, how does that help the American farmer?
He was talking about different programs.
Oh, he was talking about a different program. I thought he was talking about this guy who. Okay.
No, I think he was talking about a different program.
All right. Are there programs that help American farmers? I'm sure that some do.
Yeah, they do. From USAID.
It was to counter the Soviet Union during the Cold War. I believe it still has a legitimate purpose to counter the rising threat of China and Belt and Road and our other foreign adversaries. It also has the ability to counter terrorism. Lindsey Graham and I passed the Global Fragility Act. State, DOD, USAID, all working together to destabilize nations, which breed terrorism.
You mean the nations that the CIA destabilized, right? Come on.
Yeah.
Man, this is
PEPFAR, one of the most successful
that is
global health
point.
programs ever
PEPFAR.
developed under President Bush. Yet all of this is called into question because of the irresponsibility
I agree with
of
that.
the Biden administration's woke agenda and policies.
Yeah.
Mr. Yo, we've been friends. We work together, colleagues. Your greatest legacy is the BUILD Act, and we need to reinforce that policy as well. But when you look at the core mission, all these programs need to go, and they will be gone.
Yep.
But as we look at program by program and strip down to the core mission, do you still believe that this is a worthwhile endeavor, the core mission of USAID?
I do. I think what you see over a period of time is a mission creep. These programs were designed with purity of purpose. This is what they're supposed to do. And when you get mission creep, you get these things that we're seeing, and they're indefensible. Some of the programs that you guys mentioned, and that loses trust, like you said. And in business, what I've learned, and I think everybody can agree with this, people like to do business with people they know, they like, and they trust.
That's true. That absolutely. So we're going to jump ahead to 4502, and that's Representative Smith
from New Jersey.
And we're going to take this to 4751. Here we go.
I now recognize Mr. Smith from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Upon assuming office, President Biden repealed President Ronald Reagan's Mexico City policy, expanded by President Donald Trump in 2017. But the Biden administration didn't stop there. They initiated a new radical vision that integrated aggressive abortion on demand into PEPFAR programming, called it Reimagining PEPFAR, that included explicit guidance directing recipients, and this is billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer funds, to use their leverage to enact pro-abortion laws and policies in PEPFAR countries. Biden hijacked PEPFAR, and he shattered. I did the reauthorization of PEPFAR for 5 years during the Trump administration, the first one. I'm all for it.
Look at him.
In this place here and on the floor of the House and all over Africa as I traveled, all for it. But then it was hijacked. In a strong rebuke, and Mr. Max had mentioned this earlier, 131 African lawmakers and religious leaders said that the PEPFAR funding is supporting abortion, and they admonished us to say the NGOs that we finance are hijacking their ideals by pushing it so aggressively in Africa. Mr. Natsios, you testified today, and I read your written statement, that USAID needs to be refashioned, and you said that, quote, you believe it is bad policy to transfer domestic culture wars into politics to the developing world. Do you believe that the Biden administration was wrong to integrate abortion on demand as into global health? Because they did it across the board, USAID, and of course PEPFAR. Much of that money is deployed through USAID. When you did say that efforts to protect the weakest and most vulnerable from extermination, I do believe that's trivialized when you somehow bottom line it and say it's a culture war. We believe in defending unborn children and their mothers from the violence of abortion. It's not a culture war. It is a fact when they're in these countries pushing it, that unfortunately children will die. I and like-minded pro-life advocates in Congress and around the world seek to protect unborn baby girls and boys from violence of abortion, including dismemberment, decapitation, and of course the abortion pills, which are now being pushed all over the world, including the United States. How do they work? They starve the baby to death. That's how it works. So I'm all for global. We did two bipartisan. I was the prime sponsor of it. Global Food Security Act. I'm all for mitigating global hunger. But when you turn around and say to an entire segment of humanity, unborn children, we're going to starve you to death through these abortion pills, to me, that's unconscionable. So do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, you can believe however you want on abortion. It's up to you. This is America. You can have whatever belief you want. But we should not be using our tax dollars in other countries to promote their death. Even countries we don't like. Like, let's be frank here.
Control.
Yeah. We're going to jump ahead to Representative Wilson, 5657.
From South Carolina.
And we're going to take that to 5951. So about 3 minutes. Here we go.
Mr. Wilson is recognized.
Thank you very much, Chairman Brian Mast, and thank you for your leadership on this very important hearing. In the past, I have supported the very inspiring messages and missions of American outreach. I have, though, sounded the alarm for abuse and wasteful spending in aid programs, sadly, for years. We've routinely seen aid diverted to dictators such as Assad of Syria and oppressing the very people it was meant to help. The Biden administration insanely provided and funded woke, deranged depravity in Syria instead of trying to help the people. And the UN delivered aid through the regime itself to the people as they were being slaughtered by Bashar al-Assad. Legitimate aid was diverted from the needed earthquake recovery that occurred there in Syria. Fortunately, Assad is now removed by the people of Syria, and he is in hiding, of course, in the appropriate location, Moscow, with war criminal Putin. Another example, Mr. Primarak, is the tragic example of dictator diversion, and that is in Tunisia. Once a shining success of the Arab Spring and partner in North America, it's now been turned into a full-blown dictatorship by Kais Saied. While Millennium Challenge Corporation rightfully suspended aid, USAID sent $30 million to cover unclear programs while the dictator has corrupted the economy, destroying jobs. What can be done to stop propping dictators and also aid being diverted, as you correctly identified, even to terrorists themselves? Mr. Primarak?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm not familiar with the situation in Tunisia, but this happens a lot. I think there's a lot of goodwill in these programs. There's a lot of good programs overall. But the problem is that very often these things just go on year after year after year. And then there's no changes. We're actually propping up bad regimes and socialism. I was in Mozambique in October for the elections there. We have a Marxist Leninist regime. They stole the election. We're spending $1 billion $500 million to $1 billion a year. And then what happens? There's no reform. We're supporting socialism. And the government, just 2 months before we came there, provided their port in order to allow the Chinese Navy to project their power into the Western Indian Ocean. So there has to be a much better affinity between what we do on the development aid side and the diplomacy, where we put our ambassadors on the hook to make sure these things don't happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, why are we continuing to fund regimes around the world?
Exactly. We definitely shouldn't be doing that.
All right. So 102.28 is our next clip.
With a Democrat from Massachusetts.
And this is Keating, right?
Yeah, just
All
wait
right.
for this one.
Keating from Massachusetts.
Just wait for this one.
Oh, boy. Here we go. All right. It's getting into the spicy now, I think. All right, guys.
Oh, just wait.
Grab some popcorn.
In Massachusetts as well. I think that what we're seeing with our witnesses like this, is the fact that up until 3 weeks ago, this issue, USAID, used to be the most bipartisan issue. And I've been on this committee now for 14 years plus. We used to agree with these things. We could find things wrong with it that we can correct. And the irony of all this is this. The Republicans are in charge of the White House, the House, and the Senate. They have the power to do this the right way. They have the power of oversight to look at all the things that are being pointed out. That's your responsibility if you don't like it, and you have the power to do it. You don't need this draconian executive directive to do it.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
You have the power to do it the right way. What's the right way?
I'm not sure what he's referring to. That's why I was.
I don't think he knows either. I think he's just going to go on.
They are doing it the right way by showing this, and then they can write it out of the budget.
Right, dude. These people kill.
It's causing chaos, not just here in this country, but around the world. It's not necessary, and it's a huge departure from everything I've seen occurring in the 14 years before this. Along those lines, I'd like to submit, Mr. Chairman, a letter to the Republican and Democratic leadership in the House and the Senate. And it's from almost 150 former administrative officials, Republicans and Democrats.
Imagine that, bureaucrats.
Those who served in the military and the State Department, and urging the rescission of the Trump executive orders aimed at freezing our foreign assistance and dismantling USAID.
As we've seen, guys, it doesn't matter political party, political leaning. Ideology is what's important. And these bureaucrats who have signed this letter, they truly believe they're doing the right thing by shuffling your tax dollars overseas
for drag shows overseas. Crazy.
It deplores the undemocratic and unconstitutional dismantling of these agencies. I'd like to submit this.
You can say it's unconstitutional all you want. It's not.
And I'd also like to point out some other correspondence that occurred around this issue. The people that praised this action, where did they come from? I'll tell you where they came from. They came
Michigan City,
our
Indiana.
greatest critics, the greatest critics of democracy right now in
the
the
greatest
world.
critics
They
of
came from the
democracy.
leaders of Russia and Hungary, and Venezuela.
Oh my God. Okay.
They're praising this effort.
Oh, okay.
That's who's for this effort.
Yeah. And lots
In
of
fact,
Americans, by the way.
The Speaker of the Russian State Duma said that anyone who received funding from USAID should be made to publicly confess and repent on Red Square. That's who's praising this.
Oh my God.
That's who's happy with this. Putin's happy with this.
Everything.
This is so important now in Ukraine.
Putin.
One example,
The war
Putin's
criminal
primary
Putin.
target in Ukraine is to destroy the electrical grid, to use that as
Circling
an
back to
energy
Ukraine.
weapon
Yeah.
of war
Yeah.
against the Ukrainians in his illegal
Yeah.
aggression.
Here's the thing. This did not age well for him. This wasn't that long ago, I know. But even since then, it hasn't aged well because Ukraine is not exactly a favorite on the tongue of a lot of America right now. You guys, even the ones who supported sending billions of dollars to Ukraine have suddenly been informed that Ukraine considered it a gift, not a loan. No, even the most hardcore, let's help Ukrainian people that I've talked to, for whatever reason, they wanted to make sure, Ukraine was safe, stop Russia, whatever, were under the impression that this was a loan. He even said it was a loan, the comedian turned dictator that runs Ukraine. Go ahead.
And I want to be clear that I'm not on, or we aren't on Russia's side or Ukraine's side.
Right.
We should just stay out of that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Ukraine isn't exactly the dangling
I don't like
carrot.
Russia and I don't like Ukraine.
No.
And what does USAID do? They're helping to train and give the resources so that the Ukrainians can repair these damaged electrical grids so they can keep the power on and fight Putin.
Putin!
Putin's happy with this.
Putin! Putin!
I mentioned the military leaders. General Mattis, who is also
Oh,
Secretary
God.
of Defense under Donald Trump, he used to come to this committee time and time again and say, don't fully fund these programs like USAID. And you know what? If you don't fund it, just buy me some more ammunition. The military in our country understand the importance of this program.
Okay, I just want to point out, General Mattis, that's your go-to? Really?
Yeah.
The guy who may be facing treason charges is your go-to? For those who don't know, by the way, General Mattis at the end of his term, after the election, called his Chinese counterpart to tell him, don't you worry, if Donald Trump does anything, I'll call you first.
Was that Mattis that said that?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical he'll get treason charges because
Yeah.
nobody ever.
That's the latest one, right? Is it Mattis or is it hold on, wait. I might be making a mistake.
I don't think it's Mattis.
No, Mattis resigned. It's my apologies. Yeah, you call it. It's not Mattis. It's the what the heck is his name?
What is his job?
The same one Mattis had.
Joint Chief.
FtF?
Is that who you're thinking? The Defense Secretary?
Yeah, or no, not the Defense Secretary. The guy that Milley. Thank you.
Okay, it's Milley.
Milley. Yeah, Milley is who I was thinking of.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of, not Mattis. My apologies. Yeah, you guys are watching like, no, dipshit.
I was just saying, I didn't.
Right. No. That's who I had in my head. But either way, really, dude.
I've had
Really?
discussions
Mattis
for
isn't the
years,
best
and
example
I just
anyway.
recently had discussions with our special operations forces. Those people, I respect them beyond words. They are in the most
Too many
dangerous
M
parts of the
names.
world, in small numbers, a global footprint, working to know where our greatest threats are in the country. They're placed in positions hosting the most dangerous threats to our country, as are so many people working for USAID, risking their lives as well, trying to
Drag
secure
shows are dangerous.
the safety of people, not just in the world, but in our own country, from terrorist threats that are metastasizing and pose increasing threats right here back.
Right, because you never know. By writing gay comic books, we might turn a terrorist gay, and then he won't want to, Allah Akbar anymore, and it's all good, right? Is that the thinking here?
He's talking about the programs that in the Middle East that we have.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, there are tons of programs.
Yeah,
like
he's
that's
not being specific
right.
at all.
At home. They told me of the importance of USAID. They told me how they work together on security issues,
to stop
on intel
Putin.
issues, on understanding how they can use their ability to keep
It's
us
always
safe and use it more effectively. And they particularly pointed out what a threat China is, and it'll become a greater threat in the absence of USAID. That's who's asking us not to make these draconian changes.
Draconian.
And, do it the right way.
these
All
people.
those things you do, all the little small cuts. I won't say anything about circumcisions being a small cut. Listen, all these small cuts, you have the power to do it yourself.
That's
Do
what they're
it.
doing.
Do it the
Yeah,
right way.
that's what they're doing.
Don't support this.
What
And
are
then
you?
he says, don't
yield back.
support
I
this.
thank the gentleman from Massachusetts. We will write $10 million of foreskin out of the budget.
What?
I don't know where
What the hell?
I think he was just, I don't know what.
Oh my God, dude, I'm weak. Oh my God. I did get lightheaded. I was laughing so hard.
And that is why I had that quit.
Oh my God, dude. What 10? Bruh, I got to hear that again. Here we go.
We will write $10 million of foreskin out of the budget.
I think that we had like paying for circumcisions in the country that I didn't put in there.
I don't even, you know what, dude? At this point, that doesn't surprise me. That does not surprise me. Let me guess. Are we paying for circumcisions in Israel?
No, I don't think it was Israel.
Then where is that a thing? It doesn't matter. You know what? It doesn't matter.
But it was somewhere. I don't remember.
It's somewhere.
Where. It
Yeah.
was Ecuador.
Oh my God, dude. This, like, don't worry. We'll write $10 million worth of foreskin out of the budget.
Yes.
What? Okay, we're gonna jump to Rep Perry. Actually, go right into it, and we're going to 11306. Bruh.
I now recognize Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. USAID
Perry is
was
from
created through
Pennsylvania.
executive order in 1961 by
Yes.
President Kennedy,
Yep.
long having lost and strayed from its mission, lost its direction. Even the Clinton administration tried unsuccessfully to reform it.
Yeah.
And we spend, I don't know, somewhere between 40 and $50 billion annually on this organization. And with the things that you hear, well, many of us, probably most of us in this room, agree with projecting America's power for the good of all the world around the globe. Quite honestly, if our enemies were asked to design a foreign aid program that would actively undermine the United States of America at maximum cost to the taxpayer, they would be hard pressed to create a scheme more effective than USAID. That's shocking to say, but I just, it's, look, let's just go to a couple things here.
Okay.
We left Afghanistan, and I'll just characterize it as left in August of 2021. August of 2021. So the Taliban's in charge.
Disaster.
Taliban
the worst
threatens
thing
the
I've ever
lives
seen.
of the NGO personnel distributing USAID. They claim credit for USAID distribution. They interfere with the distribution of USAID aid. They tax the beneficiary of the aid. They tax the delivery service. They steal the food commodities. They divert the funds.
That's
They
my point.
extort citizens for protection for USAID aid.
Yeah.
They create sham procurement schemes, and they threaten the lives of those who oppose those schemes. Now, that all occurred before August of 2021, when we were there. When we were there. Now, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You could just read the Taliban is classified, and if you don't know, the Taliban's in charge of Afghanistan. They're classified as a specially designated global terrorist organization by OFAC. So post 2021, so this is last year, 2024, we spent $697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan.
$500 million we spent. Not only did we leave billions of dollars worth of primo military equipment behind, now we're spending $500 million of your money for what?
Good question.
I don't know what we think we're
what?
going to change in Afghanistan. We
We're
lost
not
22,000, lost
Gonna
or
change
wounded
anything.
22,500 Americans in Afghanistan over the course of our term there.
Dude.
In the war, spending over $2 trillion. We're just going to keep on spending because somehow we think it's going to get better. And if
Right.
you're wondering who's in charge of Afghanistan getting the money, and that money I just mentioned, the $697 million is on top of, and is in addition to the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of $40 to $80 million.
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute.
You heard that right.
10-day is in addition mentioned.
There, hold on.
The 697 million is on top of, and
On
is in
top of.
addition to
Okay.
the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of 40 to 80 million dollars.
40 to 80 million dollars a week in cash we are sending. Fucking why?
That's a good question.
Why are we sending that much? Bruh.
Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarah Yudin Haqqani. The Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about
What is it?
Abdullah
Oh,
bin
it's like a
Laden?
terrorist organization.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who gets some of that money? Does
Bruh.
that name ring a bell to anybody in the
Right.
room? Because
Dude.
your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding.
That's treason.
Yeah.
That is treason. Like, no way around it. If you are aiding America's enemies, that's the literal definition of treason. How is this okay?
Yeah, I don't.
And all you have from the left is keep the money flowing. It's people are dying. Dude.
If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public.
Right.
Yet somehow...
Yeah, how the hell do you think that that's money is getting to them? It's not, guys. You know where it's going.
Now you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door.
Yeah.
USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built.
Imagine that.
Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
It does. It needs the end.
That is nuts, guys. Like, I can't even do the math to even come close to seeing how much of our money is wasted on this kind of stuff. And it's not just, look, it's not just drag shows. It's not just these comic books. We're literally funding terrorism. We are funding the people who are fighting us. Unbelievable. And that's why I believe that this term is going to be different. We're already seeing it, dude. Like, remember, Trump's first term started out like pretty much every other presidency. He got some people, we agreed or disagreed on who they were, but it was pretty chill. I mean, yeah, the media was constantly, Trump. But other than that, it was some minor changes initially. He hit the ground running, dude. He was like, all right, let's go. And just
he knew what he wanted to, he knew what he wanted to do.
Oh yeah, he had that all laid out. Whoops. Okay, so our next clip is Representative Burchett from Tennessee. All right, and that is at 118:46.
I like to use his clips because usually he's informative.
Okay, all right. So
you've seen him many times.
I'll recognize him, I'm sure. We're going to go to 121:10. So we only got a few minutes of this, and then we got two more clips for you, and then we're done. I know it's a long time. Just hang in there. But the entire hearing is 4.5 hours. So you saved us a considerable amount of time, Shawn. And for that, thank you. Here we go.
Representative from Tennessee, Mr. Burchett is recognized.
Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to submit for the record an article, Why Condoms Cannot Always Be Trusted. It's dated March 19th, 1993, and it goes on to say that USAID distributed around 800 million condoms last year, and this was in 93. The argument that condoms are not being distributed obviously has some holes in it, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and people, that's the thing, right? I've seen the same thing. Oh, we're not sending condoms. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. If you look at the USAID paperwork, it literally says.
We actually did a show on
We
that.
did a show. Yeah, we looked into it. They are legit, because I'm like, okay, you know what? Elon said he's going to make mistakes. So we looked into it. Oh yeah, we're definitely paying for condoms. There's no doubt about it.
Primerick, can you provide an example of USAID programs, a USAID program that was harmful to the U.S. foreign interests? You. I probably didn't say your name right. I've said it.
That's okay, Congressman. Thank you.
Nobody
I
gets.
think
Jonathan Jackson still doesn't get Burchett right, so we're good.
I've heard a lot about the issue of China, and I agree that it's very important to counter China. But the last 4 years went in the opposite direction. The strong counter China infrastructure that we had developed over at USAID was simply dismantled by the next administration.
Imagine that. Biden didn't want to hurt China.
Nope.
Come on, man. Like, at what point are we going to?
He was definitely
do something
bought
about
and
this.
paid for.
Oh, God, yes.
Can't think of anything that's harmed the developing world than the climate agenda. It has pushed all of these countries, especially in Africa, to go green. Solar, wind, EV. Who produces all of those materials? It's China. And so, and then on top of it, we tell them, no, you can't develop your own fossil fuel industry because it's anti-green. So what happens? They can't generate the revenues to create good jobs at home. They can't generate the revenues in order to finance their own health, education, and other needs. And it increases the price of energy, which does what to the poor? It hurts them. The climate agenda has done more in increasing poverty and increasing hunger than anything else. Of course.
And I'm going to say it. Whoever is in charge of that idea, I think that's their goal. I do. I think their goal is to make a bigger divide between the rich and poor.
Could be.
Because the poor are easy to control. That's just the reality. If you have money and independence, there's a clip with John Goodman. I forgot who the other actor is, but he talks about, I don't know what movie it's from, but he talks about how you have FU money, right? You get yourself a little house, get yourself a shitbox. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
You get yourself a little shitbox Toyota or whatever, Honda, whatever, right? That'll run forever. Make sure your bills are paid. And you're good. You know, $1 million or so that you collect the money on, you're good. You can tell people, bite me.
John Goodman's the actor from Roseanne, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I know who that is then.
Anyway, if you guys know what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll find it at the end. Remind me. I'll show you guys. I'm going to find it in the meantime.
What you're saying
the
makes
resentment
sense.
that's building up from around the world, that's much more conservative than we are on these woke things. It's extremely damaging. And look, a friend of mine at work provided me this morning with something that's very, very telling. Of the 19 of the top 20 countries receiving aid from USAID are part of the Belt and Road Initiative that China runs.
Sure.
I mean, this is showing that our efforts are not working. And I agree with Congressman Yoho and Administrator Natsios that the developing world,
Okay. I got a little sidetracked. I found the clip. I'm going to show it to you guys at the end. We only got 2 more clips left to go, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's from a movie called The Gambler, which I have not seen, but I have seen the clip.
Yeah, good surprise. I haven't seen it either.
Right. Shocking. I know. For those of you who are new to the show, Shawn and I talk constantly about the movies he hasn't seen. It's all right, though. Our next clip is Representative Jacobs from...
She is from Your favorite state of California.
Oh, God, I already know what this is going to be. All right, here we go.
Yeah, she's a
Thank you,
Democrat
Mr.
from
Chairman.
California.
First of all, a question for my colleagues. I know all of us probably remember Ebola from the 2014 outbreak that President Trump, a private citizen at the time, was particularly outspoken about and terrified of. For those of you who don't remember, Ebola is a disease that has about a 41% fatality rate, no vaccine, no treatment. It causes vomiting, muscle pain, and hemorrhagic bleeding. Pretty bad. I'd like all of my colleagues, please
Sounds
raise
bad.
your hand if you would like Ebola in the United States.
No, what a stupid ass question.
No one?
Of course
Say the
not.
question again.
Of course not.
Would you like Ebola in the United States?
I'm glad the Trump administration approved Ebola response. in
Yes,
the-
on that point, with
Yeah, I don't want to talk
I
about
asked
that.
for unanimous
Right.
consent to enter into the record a New York Times article.
Oh,
Life-saving aid
imagine
remains
that.
halted worldwide despite Rubio's promise.
Just out of curiosity, how long until one of these people goes, the New York Times is propaganda? I can't give you unanimous consent for that. I'm surprised. I'm genuinely surprised that someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene
Yeah,
hasn't
true.
done something like that. But anyway,
But yes, it's
Ordered, but
custom
it's
that
not
they
if you want to
always.
see the list.
And on Tuesday, Elon Musk, the billionaire tech entrepreneur empowered by President Trump to combat the agency, I'm quoting the article now, told reporters in the Oval Office that the administration had turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention. But in reality, again, quoting this article, the Ebola funding and virtually all of the HIV prevention funding remains frozen, according to USAID employees and several aid groups. And that is because the payment system called Phoenix that USAID relies on to disperse financial assistance has been inaccessible for weeks. So as you may know, Mr. Natsios, the outbreak of diseases, infectious diseases, is one of the big things that USAID helps to prevent, which is why I think we all should be so horrified that because of Elon Musk's illegal takeover of USAID, USAID is no longer able to screen travelers at airports leaving Uganda, where there is currently an Ebola outbreak that Americans have already been infected by. Mr. Natsios, you led USAID, correct?
why is this country not monitoring their own airports?
You probably can't afford it.
That's
My
what I'm
guess.
saying, though. Like,
Do you think
Just
stopping the
saying.
screening of travelers
bruh.
makes America more or less safe?
It makes us less safe, but I would add that there is, over the last 30 years, we built a system in 90 southern countries for monitoring all infectious diseases, and that's the early warning system. So if an outbreak of any disease takes place, we know about it. The countries where, like China, where COVID started, I certainly wouldn't advocate having an AID mission there, but the countries where there's an aid mission, the ministries of health have been trained, and there's a comprehensive early warning system to protect us. That system is, in terms of AID support for it, has been shut down.
That's right.
I might also add.
Sorry, I just want to reclaim my time because I have a few more questions, but I completely agree with you. So let's take my Republican colleagues at your word. You want to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. I agree with that. You want to reform how USAID does its work. I agree with that too. In fact, I have bipartisan legislation to do that I'm happy to work with you, Mr. Mast, on. So, but let's talk about what's actually happening. So, Mr. Natsios, again, would you consider yourself liberal or woke in any way?
No.
Okay, great. Do you believe that USAID is a criminal agency plagued by waste, fraud, and abuse?
No.
And on February 4th, nearly the entire USAID workforce was notified that they were being placed on administrative leave. Mr. Natsios, would you say that removing the majority of the staff responsible for overseeing USAID's programs increases or decreases the risk of waste, fraud, and abuse?
Well, it increases it because the oversight of AID officers are there for oversight. That's what they do. 40% of the staff of AID are compliance
That's what they
officers.
claim.
They spend all day trying to make sure these things don't happen.
So hold on, wait. Do me a favor. Look up how many employees are employed at USAID. How many people work for USAID? Because that's a bold ass claim that 40% of the employees, all they do is make sure we're in compliance. That's a lot of people. Why do you need so many? Well, one reason is because there are so many bloated laws, rules, regulations. Again, the growth of the federal government.
Do happen sometimes because of where we work.
And
doesn't really give you,
the USAID inspector.
It doesn't really give you an exact number.
An exact
it
number?
Just says over 10,000.
Over 10,000. So at least 4,000 people that are just doing so-called compliance.
With all this stuff that we've heard today.
Right. So what are they actually doing is the
Good
question. Yeah.
General agreed with you as the ranking member entered into the record, stated that all of USAID's oversight controls are largely non-operational. But instead of addressing this problem, Trump actually fired the inspector general who released this report the very next day. Mr. Natsios, does firing USAID's inspector general generally reduce or increase waste, fraud, and abuse?
Well, Congresswoman, I'm trying to stay out of the vitriol here, but the inspector general is there to investigate abuse. And let me tell you how it works.
Exactly. You mental midget. The inspector general has not been doing their fucking job. That's what these people don't get.
No.
It's clear as day.
People think that they watch us and then they find this stuff and then they arrest us and all. That's not how it works. The 80% of the investigations done by aid are initiated by aid compliance officers who call the IG and say there's a problem. You need to come in here and fix it.
Listen, that's really important. That means the inspector general isn't actually doing anything proactive.
I see.
They're waiting for these 4,000 plus people to call them and say there's a problem. Why is there not an overview investigation all the time? Why are people not looking into this all the time? Because it's set up that way so that these people can fly under the radar and send thousands of your millions, billions of your tax dollars to foreign countries so they can have drag shows and pay for condoms.
And help
terrorists.
Just to clarify,
Exactly.
not only is this freeze endangering Americans, but Trump and Musk's argument for stopping this assistance to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse is a complete lie because they are doing the opposite. That's because this is not about oversight. It's not about reform. It's about completely gutting foreign assistance itself.
Okay.
With that, Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
down for
I
that
yield back.
too. If that's the result, if that's your takeaway, that this is about gutting USAID, okay, we'll start with that then. I'm good with that.
I think
still 30 seconds.
Yeah. Whoops.
I think
the
the chair
gentlelady for
says
her
something.
questions.
There we go.
I would remind everybody that Ebola response has been restored 250,000 through IOM, 1.5 million through UNICEF, another 250,000 IRFC, and others. The list goes on. And we should be supporting the correct programs.
Right.
Uganda was brought
Exactly.
up. And I would say, as an example there was a program, $5.5 million for promoting LGBT acceptance in Uganda. That is not life-saving, and that's not combating Ebola.
No.
Gentlemen,
Exactly.
He's right.
Freaking exactly. That's what I'm saying. If the alternative, here's the thing, right? If you present a binary solution, which is only one or the other, you present, we either continue funding everything we are, or we shut down USAID completely, and there's a risk of Ebola, there's a risk of AIDS, there's a risk of this, there's a risk of that. I'll take the latter. I'll take the latter and take my chances because I'm not going around with AIDS people. I'm just saying, just putting it out there. There's a way you can do that. And there's a way you can even with AIDS individuals. It's called a condom. I'm just saying.
What I'm hoping is, they dismantle the entire agency and then bring it back in some other form.
Exactly, because we've seen how ridiculously big and ridiculous this has gotten. All right, our last clip is 14204.
It's Representative Barr from Kentucky.
Excuse me. And we're going to go to 146.28. Representative Barr from Kentucky, you said, right?
Yep.
Excuse me. Here we go. This is the last clip from the hearing that I have for you guys. We'll talk about it briefly, and then I want to show you guys the other clip that I was talking about, because this should be everyone's goal.
Appreciate the very important hearing exposing the jaw-dropping waste at the USAID. And many USAID foreign assistance grants are not only wasteful, but counterproductive to our diplomatic and foreign policy objectives. Just a few examples: $75,000 for a drag show workshop in Ecuador.
Yeah,
$37 million for services for sex workers and their clients and transgender people in South Africa. $31 million for providing USAID employees with resilience, wellness, and work-life balance counseling. $24 million to build green transportation alternatives in Georgia. $500,000 to help Indonesian coffee companies become more climate and gender friendly.
I'm going to give you a perfect example. Speaking of Georgia, I'm sure you guys have seen it. If you haven't, look it up. Georgia, the country, right? Their leadership claims that they were pressured by the West, so I'm guessing the Biden administration, to start a second front with the war with Russia. They were trying to get them to go to war with their neighbor. Why? Because it'd make Ukraine's situation easier. That's what these programs are really all about. They're undermining the leadership of that country and trying to end around.
$15 million to promote LGBT rights for individuals in Kenya, and $2 million to conduct sex change surgeries in Guatemala through a trans-led organization.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Your tax dollars paid for someone's bottom surgery. That's fucked up, dude.
Isn't it?
Like, really. And we wonder why Americans have no trust in our federal government these days. That's why we elected Trump. It's that simple. Trump. Speaking of Trump, I'm so excited, guys. That's the other clip I got to play for you. If you haven't seen it, Trump has a new hat.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, I'm going to show it to you after this. Here we go.
My colleagues on the other side of the aisle are whining that President Trump has fired the Inspector General of this agency.
Yep.
Thank goodness.
Thank you
for President Trump for firing an Inspector General for not exposing what Elon Musk has exposed with this waste.
That's what I'm saying.
Are these programs what hardworking American taxpayers should be funding? But let me focus on Uganda, because my colleague from Texas raised that issue. A country that has thousands of soldiers fighting for our counterterrorism interests against al-Shabaab in Somalia. And that country was severely punished by the Biden administration for signing its anti-homosexuality law into law in May of 2023. The Biden
Look, I'm just gonna get it out there. I don't have any problem with homosexuals. I had friends who were homosexual, very close friends, as a matter of fact. I don't care what you like in the bedroom, but we should not be pressuring other countries to be like. And it's one thing to talk to another country about maybe reducing their military, or a border deal here or a protection thing there. Why are we worried about how they treat?
Exactly.
Like, it's one thing. Now, I will say it's one thing if they're killing people.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Like in the Middle East, they're pushing them off roofs and stuff. That, no. We should actually, maybe think about having that discussion. But to go after a country and try to change the very fabric of their society is wrong, dude.
The administration revoked Uganda's AGOA eligibility, enacted visa restrictions on Ugandan individuals, and pressured the World Bank to prohibit new public financing. Despite this, USAID has provided a $600,000 grant to, quote, empower Uganda's LGBT community to push back against this legislation, and a $5.4 million grant to shift public perception and attitudes in Uganda towards LGBT acceptance and to train LGBT individuals on the skills needed to engage in the economy. Now,
before we finish up with him, I just want to say, look, guys, if you're LGBT, cool. And I got no problem with individual organizations that are not government funded going in and doing whatever they do. But I don't want my money paying for it. Period.
In Uganda, China is expected to finance the $5 billion East African crude oil pipeline directly because Western leaders and the World Bank are walking away from the project because the Biden administration's response to their own domestic legislation. Mr. Primorak, should taxpayer dollars go toward penalizing countries like Uganda for making their own internal domestic political decisions on social issues that one administration doesn't agree with, which in turn strengthens countries' relationships with our adversaries like the communists in China?
Congressman, I've spoken to many officials from the region there, and they explained to me their shock when they would prepare for meetings with Secretary Blinken. They prepared about how can we work together to combat China, actually. But when they had the meeting, they were hit with the woke things about the climate, about the LGBT, and all these issues. They were utterly stunned that here they are, Africa. They know about the challenge and the great geostrategic fight that we have, ready to work with us, but we weren't ready to work with them.
Well, look, I get it. The gentleman from Texas disagrees with the Ugandan people. I get it. The Biden administration disagreed with the Ugandan people, and Secretary Blinken and USAID in the previous administration disagreed with the Ugandan people on this issue of homosexuality legislation. I get it. The question is not their opinion. The question is, what is the diplomatic job of the State Department and USAID? Is it to lecture the Ugandans, or is it to help us counter Belt and Road? Is the job of the State Department and USAID to advance American national security? That's the question. And what they did in that instance with Uganda is compromise American national security and empower our adversary.
And that's exactly it. That is exactly it. Is through USAID, people have figured out how to shuffle money to places that it shouldn't be. That's very, very simple. And thank God Trump fired the IG.
Yeah.
He should have fired way more people his first term, in my opinion. People are like, oh my God, the president's firing people. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want these bureaucrats running things? Look at what happened first time. Dude, everything Trump tried to do was stopped, blocked, stopped, blocked. Damn that. All right. I got a couple of things I want to show you guys. So first of all, the new Trump hat.
All right.
All right.
What you were talking about earlier, and I haven't seen.
Okay. So, dude.
All right. I see it now.
Is this the meme president or what? Look at this. Look at it. Okay. Trump shows off. The hat says Trump was right about everything. I will let you guys know. I already ordered one. I said, you know what? I really don't want to get up off the money, but how cool is that? And I ordered it from his website, donaldjtrump.com. Here we go.
If you work with PDFs at all, you need Adobe Acrobat. You can edit, share, sign PDFs, and more. The whole PDF kit and caboodle.
What is this?
By the way, what is a caboodle? It's a funny word. Well, whatever it is, if it involves PDFs, Acrobat's got it.
That's annoying.
Right. Go away. Let's try this.
All right, yeah.
There we
All
go.
of them.
Look.
See that?
So Trump.
Trump was right about everything. Just came in. Somebody said, I said, this was sent in by a fan.
Yeah.
I said, I think we should make some of them, right? But we were pretty much. You want one? Are you allowed to take one? Because he'll consider it. I know him well. He's sort of a stiff. Yeah, Brian, you're not a stiff. You're sort of
Brian,
stiff
you're not
guy.
a stiff.
He'll
You're
take other things, but not a free hat.
Always say yes.
You'll take other things, but not a free hat. Dude, Trump, dude. And like I said, man, regardless of how you feel about him, he is the content president, man. We never had a fraction of the entertainment as we did since Trump took office, dude. Like,
there's only one.
There is only one Donald J. Trump, man. All right. So is like 3 minutes. I hope I don't get a copyright strike for this. I might. It is what it is, but I'm willing to play it for you guys because it's that good. Okay, if something happens, look up The Gambler 2014 F *** space U scene. So FU scene 7/10. All right. This guy sums it up so well, right? Here we go.
$2.5 million. Any asshole in the world knows what to do. You get a house with a 25-year roof, an indestructible Jap economy shitbox. You put the rest into the system at 3 to 5% to pay your taxes, and that's your base. Get me? That's your fortress of fucking solitude. That puts you for the rest of your life at a level of fuck you.
Yeah.
Somebody wants you to do something? Fuck you. Boss pisses you off? Fuck you. Own your house. Have a couple bucks in the bank. Don't drink. That's all I have to say to anybody at any social level. Did your grandfather take risks?
That's basically the gist of it. And that is it, man. If you have enough money that you can live off the money, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I meant earlier by there is freedom in wealth, right? As as someone who is definitely not independently wealthy and does not have FU money, we have to earn our money, right? We have to go to work, we have to buy, we have to sell, we have to earn our money. But if you have enough that's not needed, if you have enough that no matter what someone does to you, you're good, that's FU money, man. Mm-hmm. What do you want me to do? F you, you know? That's kind of the best freaking goal anybody can ask for, is to have FU money. So life is easier for those with that kind of money. And in many cases, these are the liberals that are crying about the things that are happening with President Trump. President Trump is not making life easier for those who already have it easy. He's making life easier for you and me, but it takes time, dude. And of course, what's wild to me is the liberals, right? The lefties. Elon Musk barely mentioned sending out checks with Doge savings, right? Oh my God. The left lost their minds and was talking about how it would destroy the economy and it'll do this and it'll do that and it's horrible and it's the end of the world. They were all about those STEMI checks before.
True.
Weren't they? You guys here remember? They were all about those STEMI checks, except the ones that had Trump's signature.
Yes.
Oh my God. Biden even says
he did.
He's like, I screwed that up. Yeah, he should have had his signature on him, but too late, homie. Too late. Trump, dude, master chess player. And look, he's not all perfect. He fucks up. There's some stuff that he does that I'm like, bruh, really? But for the most part, I gotta go Trump, man. Big T, homie, man. Can't wait for that hat.
Yeah.
So look, let me show you guys just in case you want to go nab. And no, I don't get any money from this or anything. I just think it's cool. But if you go to
definitely only one Trump.
Yeah, there's only one Trump. If you go to hold on, DonaldJTrump.com. Oh, I don't think you can see it on this. Hold on, there you go. If you look up at the top, DonaldJTrump.com, and then we hit enter. Boom. It takes you, and here it is. Get your official Trump gear now. You click shop merch or shop now, right? I'll show you guys what I did. There's the Make America Great Again hats. And right here, the Trump was right about everything red hat, dude. I was like, yes. So whenever it comes in, you guys will see it because I'm going to be wearing this bad boy. I was thinking about getting, where's it at? I was thinking about getting the dark MAGA hat, but I think it would look better if it had like a little silver outline around the letters.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really dark. I mean, it's cool, don't get me wrong. And I kind of like the goth print on this one, what they call the Elon MAGA hat. But it's so dark and it's hard to see. I think just like a silver or small white outline. I also like the fight shirt. That's really cool. Dude, I mean, Trump, whoever he has, I know it's not him running stuff, but whoever he has as his I don't know what you would call it, his gear guy or whatever, right? Merchandising, yeah, genius. Freaking genius, dude. And he's got his mugshot hanging out outside the Oval Office. It's just all the reporters and everything, every time they file in and out, they got to look at that. Like, that's, dude. Trump, man, he's the king of the big dick moves. I mean, isn't he?
He is.
Throw it on the table, be like, there you go. Trump's a trip, man. All right, so Shawn has kindly agreed to do another live with us tomorrow, and we're going to do, what were we talking about?
How our tax dollars are being used for animal cruelty.
Yeah, so not only, ladies and gentlemen, are we paying for drag shows, drag shows, comic books, resist the law in Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are you paying for that, along with condoms for the Taliban and all that other bullshit, you are also paying for
animal experiments.
Yes, horrific ones.
Uh-huh.
They are really, really, really bad. You guys might have seen the Beagles with NIH under Fauci.
Mm-hmm.
That dude, they strap their head in a box and let fleas and other things eat their dude. Like, really?
Who thinks of these
things? Who thinks of this shit? And who's okay with it?
Yeah.
Like, these are supposed to be doctors.
Uh-huh.
Like, do no harm. Come on, man. Like, and this, like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm an animal lover. I have several cats. I love dogs too, but cats are my thing, man. And animal cruelty infuriates me.
Just wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, it's slightly above child predator. Like, you know. That said, dude, no, oh my God, I get mad just thinking about it. Like, we're gonna have a fun time tomorrow night, guys. All right. Without further ado, we will see you guys again real soon. I appreciate you spending your time with us, and we appreciate the time that you spend getting talking to Shawn, getting the timestamps ready and going through this stuff, because who has 4.5 hours to watch this along with all this other stuff, plus trying to keep up on local politics and other national level events is a lot, man. It's a lot. So
earlier.
Yeah. So I appreciate you reducing it down. There's a lot to cover. So we're going to try to come with as much info as we can in a short amount of time as we can, because your time is valuable too. I'll see you guys again real soon. God bless you. God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. Yeah, good night.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Shawn Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.